at the end of the year likely. So you can get a substantial discount right now. Today's video, I'm going to highlight just that and showcase a number of trim $1,000 or more over MSRP throughout the last 2 years. In case that we have a few Toyota Tacoma Limiteds. You see with the chrome grills here, you got one over there as well. $60,000 dang near for this 2025 Toyota Tacoma Limited. You're fishing out $1,500 to $2,000 every single month, depending on your interest rate that you get, and of course, the loan term duration. That right there is unbearable for most people, right? It's suffocating for most people. Hey, YouTube Untamed, your dealerships across the country are struggling bad to sell their trucks right now. And well, that's abundantly clear when you start looking at the deals and discounts being applied just to move this inventory. So many unsold 2024 units are still plaguing dealership lots across the country. And well, it's June 2025, and it's not very typical to have so many unsold units from the previous year already about to celebrate their second birthday here at the end of the year likely. So you can get a substantial discount right now. Today's video, I'm going to highlight just that and showcase a number of desirable trim trucks that you can get at invoice pricing now. Trucks that used to come with the markup not that long ago, so stick with me. Brand new 2024 and brand new 2025 Toyota Tacomas are plaguing dealership lots right now across the country. They're having a very difficult time selling these and having people remain excited about the brand because, well, what do you get now? A fully made in Mexico truck here with a turbocharged four-banger underneath the hood. That's the only option. You no longer get a naturally aspirated, reliable, naturally aspirated V6 anymore. So now, turbocharged four-banger or a hybridized four-banger for the higher trimmed examples. Right now, you can easily get anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 off of these things. on various trends. Even the Trail Hunter and TRD Pro, you can get $6,000 to $7,000 off. And I'll throw up an example here just to prove it to you. This is happening commonly. And also, you can't get too wildly excited for invoice pricing when they have hiked up MSRPs substantially. This right here is an SR5. SR5 Toyota Tacoma is technically in the cloth interior is pretty bare bones, right? Nothing too fancy about this particular one, and yet they still want over 43 grand for it, okay? This right here, not that long ago, truly was between $20,000 and $25,000. Not anymore. The Tacoma at large really is a prime example of a vehicle manufacturer outsourcing production to a much cheaper labor country like Mexico, where they save over 80% on their labor costs, and they still hiked up the price tag over 23% over the previous generation with that reliable V6. So, hiked up the price tag, lessened their labor costs substantially on it. Doesn't make any sense, huh? It's a total shame that your average tier D off-road here, not even the iForce Max with the hybridized four-banger, is still $50,000. I hate that this has become the new norm. Just for context, here are a couple iForce Max examples. It hikes up the price tag, well, an additional $4,000 for this TRD off-road. And you remember you could never go buy a brand new TRD Pro trim Toyota and get it for below MSRP. MSRP was considered a great deal for years, really, since they've come out, right? And nowadays, you can get $6,000 off a Tacoma TRD Pro, or sometimes a little bit more than that, right? Even for the Trail Hunter, these top trend examples, which technically we should be wildly excited about, but now people are seeing through the BS. They see that this is wildly overpriced for what you get. And well, the Toyota Tundra here, we talk about a plenty. These, although they're still made of San Antonio, Texas, you can get these for anywhere between $8,000 and $12,000 off pretty regularly. Obviously, the lesser trimmed examples, the SR5, you're not going to have that much margin in them between invoicing and their MSRPs, but still expect a good deal even on those examples there. The Tier D Pros, believe it or not, they're coming at invoice now. Invoice pricing is becoming quite common for the Tundra Tier D Pro. I'll throw up an example here just so you guys can see for yourself. That's becoming common. It's pretty sad to see Toyota ruin such iconic nameplates like the Toyota Tundra here. Let me remind you of how much they want for them. This one is not the iForce Max, but look at that. It looks as though it should be an iForce Max with a price tag right at $66,000. This one here is a limited crew max. Absolutely insane. And again, for context, if they have the iForce Max badge on the hood, that's when they have the hybridization to it, right? They have the battery pack underneath the hood. Let me remind you of how much these will run you. This one here is a platinum as well. Look at that. Over $73,000 for this platinum Crew Max. Absolutely sickening. 73,000. So pretend they took $12,000 off of that. It's now 61 grand. Are you gonna feel much better about it? Are you gonna buy it at that point? I don't know. I still wouldn't. And just as a reminder, the 2021 Tundra Tier D Pro, the previous generation with a reliable, naturally aspirated V8, that peaked out right around $55,000 back in 2021. So I don't blame people for not wanting to buy these, even with that 15% off discount off of MSRP. Doesn't feel like much of a discount when they've hiked up the price tag 20-30% more than what it should be. So again, that 15% doesn't do much. And it's always pretty easy to spot the car salesmen in the comment section when they're quick to brag about how they're able to sell their Toyotas Tacomas on the lot. Then when you look at their comments, you quickly realize that they live in a big city like San Antonio or near Seattle or somewhere big with millions of people. Of course you're gonna sell the couple hundred Toyota Tacomas that are gonna hit your dealership lot throughout the year. You better. You got bigger problems if you can't manage to sell that few vehicles to a large audience like that, right? So don't beat your chest too hard because across the country you're seeing mostly this. Most dealerships look like this. They cannot move this inventory. Obviously, in those large cities, what do you have? You generally have very well paying jobs too. So you get people with more money than brains, let's face it. Well, here is the most affordable Toyota Tundra on this entire lot right here. It is a 2025 SR5 Toyota Tundra. It's still price tag over $53,000. This used to buy you the top trim Tier Pro just in 2021. Oh, how times have changed. And in case you haven't thrown up in your mouth just yet, we have a few Toyota Tacoma Limiteds. You see with the chrome grills here, you got one over there as well. And well, get a load of this bad Johnny. $60,000 dang near for this 2025 Toyota Tacoma Limited. Hard pass. It's important to note that the profit margin on these mid-sized pickup trucks is a bit less comparatively to what we find with a full-size pickup truck like an F-150 or Chevy Silverado. You can get a larger discount on those trucks compared to these guys, right? But even these, I would argue, can comfortably get 10 to 15% off quite easily. I mean, heck, even the Ford Ranger Raptor is now coming with discounts, anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 off, and that's saying something because those are wildly popular, the Ranger Raptors, and even they are having a difficult time at moving those. So this right here, let me show you just a prime example. This is an XLT. MSRP is just over, hopefully you can see it, just over $44,000. This XLT example here. I like the color, cactus gray. You can easily get this for right around $40,000 without too much heartburn, maybe even high 30s. You tell me. And I want to tell you guys, I actually had a nice conversation with the general manager of this Ford dealership the other day. If you haven't been following my channel for a while, I actually did an interview with him talking about markups about a year ago. It's a really good video. Check it out if you haven't already seen it. But I had a talk with him. His name's Kevin. Chatted with him yesterday about their vehicle allocations and their selection of vehicles that they put on their lot. So oftentimes it truly is the vehicle manufacturer that's pushing and only allowing for certain trimmed vehicles to be selected by their dealerships. They can't just be completely choosy and say, hey, I want to get 10 Ford Raptors. There's allocations for that. And well, they would much rather have these lesser trimmed models because they know that those are actually selling. But unfortunately, Ford at large or all vehicle manufacturers like to pump out the higher trimmed examples because there is a larger profit margin to be had on them. Like on a Ford F-150 Platinum compared to an XL example. A much larger profit margin on that one. All that to say, it isn't totally on the dealerships for what you see on their lots. And I think a lot of us understand that. Really, it is the vehicle manufacturer pumping out certain vehicles that really that get determined and selected a year, at least a year in advance. They predict and project what the interest will be in certain trims, and they pump out that many and plan for that many. And well, the dealers, they kind of work with the hand that they're dealt. And guys, real quick, I'll use this as an opportunity to give a quick shout out to Kengar Ford here in Cheyenne, Wyoming, my hometown. Same with Toyota, Hyundai, the dealers here. obviously much of my videos are for you. For us, the consumer, is kind of the consumer versus dealerships oftentimes. And I often paint dealers to be in a very negative light because, well, more often than not, it make you feel pretty awful when you go in to try to negotiate a deal. They're always trying to deploy sleazy tactics, and well, it's my job to kind of highlight that and showcase it to you guys and educate and inform you of what to look out for, just what to avoid, right? So I do that often, and well, most of my videos come across very negatively to dealerships. And I tell you what, even talk with the general manager here, he supports this. He supports me walking his dealership lots, kind of poking at them and being critical of them. He supports it, and he actually doesn't want me to change my approach or tact. So hopefully that says something. Hopefully some of you can appreciate that, right? Obviously, it doesn't really change the fact that how so many people feel about dealerships. I understand, but here he's telling me, hey, keep doing what you're doing. It's goodness. You're always welcome here. That's pretty cool. So I do appreciate them. I want to give them a shout out, okay? Because what could they easily do? They could politely asked me to leave and politely asked me to not come back and do these videos anymore. He could do that, right? These are his dealerships, and I would respect that if he asked him to do that. So he doesn't. In fact, he welcomes it and he encourages it. So I think there's goodness there, and I hope you guys can appreciate this too. And I've showed you guys these Broncos before, of course. This one here is all dolled up with some tires, aftermarket wheels, rigid industry, a light bar up top, a $7,000 winch magically. But this here is the discount being advertised. What is that? What? $1,700, $1,800 off. That is insufficient, right? If you're gonna move this, you know, they need to be at least maybe a low 70s if someone's gonna be excited for that, I think. This here is an example of what is at least being advertised on these big body Broncos. About $5,000, exactly $5,000 off the MSRP for this particular wild track here. Okay, I think you can easily get $8,000 to $10,000 off these if it means making a deal. And I've said that a few times, and people are like, no way, you can't do that. Absolutely, you can. Just try. Call up a couple dealerships. If the dealer in your local area doesn't want to play ball, call the next dealership. Open up the Google, right? And you're gonna find some dealership willing to play ball if it means making a deal. Behind me is an example of that Ford Bronco Raptor. The Raptor trim Broncos come at a price tag dang near $100,000. Sometimes a little bit over it, but right around the high 90s point. These are commonly coming with a $20,000 to $29,000 off discount. I'm not even kidding, guys. I follow a number of Facebook group pages for the Bronco Raptor in particular. Every day I see them advertised with those types of discounts. I'll throw up one as an example, my most recent one. I think $20,000 or $22,000 off that one. You can get huge deals on this. I mean, let's face it, the Bronco Raptor is a very thrilling, exciting looking vehicle. So, if you hadn't done your homework and you walked up on the dealership lot here, you saw, hey, wow, look at this thing. It's that was about $4,000 or $5,000 off MSRP. You'll see that sale. You'll see it, like, holy cow, this is freaking sweet. This is exciting. It is easier, I'll say, for dealership to maybe convince someone into buying this upon walking on the lot. There's a reason why they put it right out front here, right? So as you walk into a lot, you'll see, like, maybe you hadn't seen one before, and you're like, holy cow, this is freaking insane looking. And it has a bit of a discount on it. Why not make something happen? So this is that type of vehicle for a dealership. They might just get $99,000 for this. All because that person didn't go home, fire up the interweb and do some homework on it. Doesn't take that long to realize that these are coming with a very, very large discount. And honestly, I don't say this often, but if you are able to get approved for a new vehicle purchase and it's not going to totally strap you for cash every single month, I do recommend buying new over used right now. New, you're going to get a better incentivized interest rate. They're being advertised to try to move metal, especially unsold 2024 units, of course. And you can expect a great discount on top of that incentivized interest rate. Obviously, you're going to be spending more comparatively to a used vehicle, but used vehicle prices are up substantially comparatively to just Q1 here in 2025. Used vehicles, wholesale wise, they're up tremendously. So it makes more sense to spend just a little bit more if it means getting a better interest rate and, well, a brand new vehicle with a full manufacturer warranty. We talk about it plenty, but I think it's important to plug the average new truck sale price back in Q1 of 2025 was just over $64,000. 64 grand. Since when is that how much we need to spend for a truck? People are just fed up with getting examples like this. Of course, it looks fine. It's a F-150 Lariat, but it's sporting a 3.5 liter power boost, right? Let me see if you can see it up here. At the 3.5 liter power boost full hybrid option here. That is largely why we see such a substantial price tag. Over 74 grand. This right here is what Americans actually want. A very sparse down, bare bones example pickup truck. Very simplistic. Cloth interior, steely wheels. This here is what most Americans can justify when it comes to monthly payments, right? Buying that makes a lot more sense compared to, let's say, this F-150 Lightning here. The Lightning, I would argue, has kind of ruined it for so many of the other examples here. Ford lost, I think it was $4.2 billion collectively in their entire EV segment throughout the last couple of years. Well, they gotta eat it up somewhere, right? They gotta make up for it. So they up the price tags of all their other trims and all their other vehicles to make up for these losses. So this here, let me remind you how much they want for the Lightning. So just over $72,000. And it really wasn't all that long ago that you can get substantial discounts on these. I'm talking $20,000 up. And here we have a couple examples of GMC Sierras with almost was 18 to 20% off discount here. So MSRP is 57,000 about and $9,000 off, bringing it down to just under 48 grand. They say, or a 0% interest rate over 36 months. I've heard a lot of people getting $13,000 off these pretty easily, you know, and an incentivized interest rate. So it's really not an either or. They'll try to pin you to one or the other, but if it means making a deal, well, I think they ought to get creative, and they should. Dealerships entering into their slow season, we're talking that June, July, August time frame. Now they need to get very desperate, very creative to move this metal. Otherwise, well, it's just going to continuously stack up. They're going to keep receiving inventory. Their allocations are going to continue to arrive to the dealership, and they might just get back to the point where they need to start turning away vehicles, and no dealership wants to do that. It's not a good look for the dealership, especially to the corporation, to the manufacturer to do that. So they need to get desperate. They need to get very creative to move this metal. So not only are you going to need at least a $15,000 off discount, you're going to probably have to refinance your house to justify buying one of these full-size heavy-duty examples here. Here we have a GMC 3500 AT4 trimmed example of the Sierra here. And well, at 91,500, even this one just feels wildly, wildly overpriced for what you did. You tell me. As you'd imagine, the profit margin on that Sierra 3500 over there is much larger comparatively to the GMC Canyon AT4 here. Let me remind you of the MSRP on this one, just over $47,000. So of course the discount is going to be smaller. Even here, I would wager if it means making a deal, you can get closer to that $40,000 price point. And the unfortunate bit of it all is dealerships are fully aware that most Americans cannot come out and justify buying a brand new truck. You know, especially many of these being $80,000 to $95,000 here behind me. Who can really make those monthly payments? Every single month you're fishing out $1,500 to $2,000 every single month, depending on your interest rate that you get, and of course, the loan term duration. That right there is unbearable for most people, right? It's suffocating for most people. But dealerships have caught on to that. And well, because of that, used values have shot up tremendously. I'm talking just over the last few months, used values have gone up tremendously because dealers know that they can actually sell the used trucks compared to these new ones that are priced to the moon. Just doesn't make sense. You guys know it, but I am a big fan of the Nissan Frontier because it does sport a very reliable, trusty 3.8 liter naturally aspirated V6. That's a dying breed right there. Everything has gone to a smaller displacement, turbocharger, hybrid platforms that have gotten too complex, too complicated, too much technology. This here is still pretty simplistic, and I, for one, really appreciate that. The price tags, although they're still kind of high, they're bearable. This right here is a Pro 4X. You know, their price points are anywhere between that 44 and $48,000, generally speaking. And while you can easily get several $1,000s off and it incentivizes interest rate through Nissan to buy one of these. I know so many people who paid in the high 30s for a top trim Pro 4X. That just makes sense. You tell me. Well, if you want to save a few additional bucks, come look at this S trim example of the Nissan Frontier. MSRP just over $38,000. So it's not unrealistic to come in here and expect to pay right around $30,000. And well, most dealers and most Nissan dealerships, they know that they're kind of in a tight spot right now. The whole manufacturer is at large. So hopefully they'll work with you. For very similar reasons, a lot of people are gravitating to the Honda Ridgeline, and even these you can expect a little bit of a discount on even today, in addition to, as you see, an incentivized interest rate. It has 1.99% on these ones here. Let me remind you how much they want for these guys. I know the glare is pretty bad, but for this Trail Sport example, just over $47,000. Would you consider getting a Honda Ridgeline if you spent right around that 42 mark? Behind me is a used 2023 Nissan Frontier. Mark my words here. I do firmly believe that the residual values on the Toyota Tacomas, those are gonna start to plummet a bit, especially with the new turbocharged four-banger and people not being that interested in them, and Toyota's still pumping them out like hotcakes, right? They're overproducing that vehicle. That residual, the resale value in Tacomas is going to go down undoubtedly. But for the Nissan here, people are going to begin appreciating this again. They're going to begin appreciating the whole reliability, simplicity, right? They're going to miss that. They're going to want to gravitate back to it. So, used values on the Nissan Frontier, especially when they do away with this natural aspirated V6 here, people are going to want to gravitate back to it. Mark my words. Oftentimes, the largest discounts that you can get on any pickup truck generally comes on Chevys and GM products in general, because it is mainly being pushed by the manufacturers. Chevy or GM at large is often offering pretty large, substantial discounts and incentivized interest rates. They're always pushing them out every single month seemingly changing them a bit. The unfortunate bit is so many Chevy dealers will try to act as if their hands are tied. Their hands are tied to those discounts, and that's the frustrating part when dealing with Chevy at large and GM. Okay, they love pretending like, oh, well, that's the discount that we can offer. Those are the incentives being offered by GM. That's all they can do. That's wrong. They can do more than that. It's really up to the management staff at that dealership how much are they willing to cut the price of their vehicles. It's up to them. Because Chevy has become quite notorious for offering these large discounts and rotating incentivized interest rates, that has kind of led to GM products not maintaining the best resale values, the best residuals, okay? And that's kind of always been a point of friction for me. I've owned a couple Chevy products before, and well, the resale values are always extremely tricky to try to maximize come time to trade in. Over $87,000 for this 2025 Silverado 2500 ZR2. That is absolutely insane. And you can't help but feel like there's a level of planned obsolescence here when it comes to how many safety recalls, engine recalls, brake recalls, all these recalls that take place on these brand new pickups. Right? It's 2025. You'd think we would do a little bit better of a job at pumping out vehicles with a better reliability rating overall. But no, we still have to deal with that. Ford, I think, leads the pack. Ram, Chevy, GM, they're up there, but still, why can't we buy a new vehicle today with a level of peace of mind? But no, we buy it, then immediately we get hit with a recall of some sort. Pretty frustrating. And I can tell you from personal experience, having tried to negotiate one of these ZR2s before, it was a ZR2 Bison that I negotiated. There really is not much of a profit margin at all between invoice and MSRP. And you tend to find that with the mid-size segment, of course. Here we have a new ZR2 here in that reef blue color, reef blue metallic, which is pretty interesting. Look at that price tag. Dang near $60,000. Invoice pricing is not far from that. So getting anything really more than a few $1,000s off is pretty difficult on these platforms. And RAM in particular has had a very, very difficult last 2 or 3 years. Stellantis has been struggling. The stock has been crumbling. Well, even with discounts like this, you can see it. It's $11,000 off with a $62,000 MSRP on this RAM 1500 SST. And just as an honorable mention, I know we're talking trucks here, but talk about a desirable trim vehicle. This is a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392 sporting a 64-liter Hemi gate or an grand off if you use buy more. Pretty well, huh? Many of the Ram pickups here are being advertised with over $10,000 off discounts on this particular example. There's a big horn trim, and well, for here, almost $11,000, $12,000 off. For this 2500 heavy duty pickup truck, you need $20,000 off, 25,000. You tell me. Another indicator is the Ford F-150 Raptor, right? The Raptor 37 performance package is now being advertised at invoice pricing at so many dealerships. That is insane because those were easily $10,000 or more over MSRP throughout the last 2 years. So they've come off markups and well, now they're sold at invoice pricing, and even then they're struggling to do it. The Raptor R, well, that's a whole nother story, but the Raptor R is a good indicator where the market is going. The Raptor R, F-150 Raptor R, was generally coming with $20,000 to $50,000 markups over sticker, which is absolutely insane. The sticker's $114,000 on them, so imagine paying $50,000 more than that. Sickening. But people were doing it. Right now, we're looking at about a $10,000 markup on average. Sometimes people are claiming that they're getting a sticker and 5,000 over, but that there is an indicator of the market shifting quite heavily. All right, guys, I'll wrap up the video there. Let me know what your discount was on your recent sitting on toilet, sitting on toilet, sitting on toilet, backward, sitting on toilet, sitting on toilet, sitting on toilet, backwards, sitting on toilet, sitting on toilet, sitting on toilet, backwards, sitting on toilet, sitting on toilet, sitting on toilet, backwards, sitting on toilet, sitting on toilet, sitting on toilet, sitting on toilet, backwards, and flush.
Man, the MAGA folks are all worked up about the No Kings protest. I thought you guys didn't give a shit if we protested. You guys seem to be really amped up about it today, huh?
Hey, liberals, how's it going? How's it going, window lickers? I'm sorry, short bus riders. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Um, how's the riding? In a recent CBS News poll, 2 out of 3 Americans told us they're stressed about their own finances. 3 out of 4 said their incomes are not keeping up with inflation. That's a lot of people struggling to make ends meet. And starting tonight in our series, The Cost of Living, you'll hear some of their stories in their own words. First, a single mother of 3, ages 1, 4, and 8, trying to make ends meet on a teacher's salary of 30. They go into it because they love it, which is why so many of us do have to work 2 jobs